Now in this problem, we're going to do some more simplifying with the properties of exponents, okay? It's a little different than the last one. If we look here, our b is in parentheses, so that b is the only thing I'm going to deal with. Now you have two options. I can go ahead and change it first. Let's do that. And I remember we said if it has nothing here, you make that 1 over b to the second. I made a positive. This is still being raised to the third power, although it doesn't look like a 3. It still doesn't. Alright, make it plus 3. Very pretty. Okay, now, whenever you have exponents being raised, just like, if you have something being raised to an exponent and you have other exponents, like this 2 and this 3, you multiply them. So this should be 4 over 1 cubed and b to the 6. Now I bet you're like, where did the 1 cubed? Because you give it to both things. But 1 cubed is just 1, so that's not really a big deal. So it's 4 times b, 1 over b to the 6. Now, whenever you're multiplying this, you need to think about fractions. And I need to write this as 4 over 1, take it out of parentheses, 1 over b to the 6. And if I multiply straight across, I end up with 4 over b to the 6. And I can't do anything. So that's my answer. I had a lot of people who were confused why the 4 went on top. And you need to write it out using your properties whenever you're multiplying with fractions. Because even though it is 1 over b to the 6, that's considered a fraction, okay? To get this answer. Now this one, I'm just going to distribute the 3x. Pretty simple problem, but I just want everybody to see. So I just distribute that in. Negative 2x times 3x gives me minus 6x squared. 3x and negative 6 gives me minus 18x. Can I combine anything? Nope. Because of that, I am finished, and that is my answer. Now in this case, right here, we need to be very careful. This is another one of those adding subtraction that we talked about, but this is a minus. So because of that, I can't just take away the parentheses. I actually need to think of this like a minus 1 and distribute that in and change those signs. You might just know to change the signs or do the, might have seen this in school, make that a plus, make that a plus, make that a minus. I mean, like I said, it's however you learned it, okay? So, one option is to distribute a minus 1, one is to do what I just showed you. This can come out of parentheses, no problem. I'm taking it out, and then this, I need to change those signs. Negative 1 and negative 9 gives me a plus 9x squared. Negative 1 and 1 gives me a minus 1. The thing I see people do all the time is whenever they're doing that second one, they forget about it, and they skip it, and they keep that a plus 1, and it messes everything up, and the whole problem is wrong. Please be careful whenever you're doing that. Now here, combine my like terms. X squared and 9x squared gives me 10x squared. And I don't have anything to go with the 6x, so I just copy it. Now I have 4 minus 1, that's going to give me a plus 3, and I'm finished. And that's my answer. Now this is a much harder one of simplifying with exponents, okay? In this problem, we have a lot of stuff to do. And so we can do it step by step. I don't want to actually get rid of my negatives and flip them out at the beginning. You'll see why. It's actually easier if you don't. So it depends on the case. You can do it right away, you can do it later. And, you know, if you're doing it correctly, you should have no problem getting the right answer. But in this case, I want to do it this way. Notice this 3 here goes to all that. So if I write this out, this should be 2x cubed times 6 cubed, because remember, everything gets 1. Negative 1 times 3 gives me minus 3, okay? All over 16y cubed. 6y to the negative 1, because I don't have any other exponents to use that with. Now, my next bet is to start multiplying and doing those exponents. So 6 to the third power here, it's a big number, that's 216. So I end up with 2x cubed times 216, x to the negative 3, all over. Now I can multiply these down here. I end up with 96 And I'm going to write the y cubed and the y to the negative 1 right next to each other. I'm not going to do anything with them yet. It's okay to do this at this step. Up here, I'm going to multiply those two. So 2 times 216 gives me 432. And I have x cubed and x to the minus 3. I'm going to write them right next to each other, all over 96, y cubed, y to the negative 1. Now notice, if I'm adding those, 3 and negative 3 completely cancel out. See, I didn't have to move anything. Which makes it 432 by itself on top. On bottom, I have 3 minus 1 is going to give me 2. So 96y to the 2. Now you might be thinking you're finished, but you need to be careful. You need to take these two numbers and see if you can reduce the fraction, that thing right there. If you have a calculator, just punch it in, okay? If you don't, you know that they're both even, because they both end in an even number. Try to start dividing this by 2 and see what you get. In the long run, you should end up with 9 over 2. That's how much of a number they have in common. And your y squared still stays at the bottom. And that's your answer. So please do try to reduce that so you can get the correct answer in that case. Okay. Now we're on to factoring, everyone's favorite topic. Now factoring is everyone's favorite math F word, I know. It's time to do some factoring here. And so let's go ahead and get this done. Now, it says here doing trial and error, so some of you might know the illegal maneuver. You can try it. This isn't the best problem to do it on because you end up with a pretty big number, so I really wouldn't recommend it. I'll show you on an easier one, the illegal maneuver. Trial and error, as you know, or the AC math, however your teacher was showing you, is look, you do what you can. You're either trying to figure out what are the factors that are going to work for the last one, and what are the factors that are going to work for the first one, and what combination of those. Okay, in some cases it's easier with the first one, to play around with it. How do you get 3x squared? Well, that's going to be 3x and 3x, okay? So you could do it 2 ways. So I could do 3x and x. Well, some people have seen this crisscross method. Now I've got to start thinking about some factors of 40. So what are some factors of 40? Well, I have 2 and 20, and I have 4 and 10. I also have 1 and 40, but I'm going to talk to you about the possibilities. And I also have 8 and 5. I think that's pretty much all the exhaustive possibilities there. Here's the deal. 9 times out of 10, it's probably not going to be these. Now, why do I say that? Because of the fact of whenever it comes to be like 1 as a number, whatever the number, 12, unless we're talking like 2 and 5, like itty bitty numbers, we're talking big numbers, it's probably not going to be the bigger things. What I tell people is, you're most likely to get, the answer will most likely be the ones, and this is just from experience, that are close together. So see how 8 and 5, they're only 3 apart, and 4 and 10 are only 6 apart, so it's probably going to be one of those two. I've had problems where it is 1 and 40, where it is 2 and 20. And it takes you a while to get to the answer, but you want to try the numbers closer together first. Always do that. Alright, because it's probably going to be them most of the time. Now, we can go ahead and do this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try 4 and 10, okay? And I need to figure out if there's any combination of them that will give me, and will add up to this 23. So if I do the 4 and the 10 here, what I do now is I crisscross multiplying here. So x times 4 gives me 4x, and 3x and 10 gives me 30x. Well, no combination of that's going to give me 23. So my next bet here is to go ahead and switch it. So rewrite this. I'm not going to erase it. Do 10 and 4. Okay, switch the spots. You have to try this twice for each one of them. X and 10 gives me 10x. 3x and 4 gives me 12x. Ooh, real close to 23, but not quite. So now I've exhausted all possibilities for 4 and 10. It's time to move on to 8 and 5, okay? So in this case, I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to do 3x and x, and I'm going to do 5, and I'm going to do 8. So I'm going to crisscross, and I get 5x, and I get 24x, and it's really close. I'm multiplying here. That's really close to 23 when it comes to adding or subtracting these. but it's still not on the ball. So let's switch the spots, 3x, x, 8 and 5, and crisscross. I know you're thinking this is a lot of time, but this is what you got to do. So here I get 8x, here I get 15. If I add these together, I get 23x. Now, this is where it gets complicated. Here, the way I wrote this is nice, because if I go to do my little things, 3x and 8, see how I crisscross to multiply, but then I'm writing it next to each other, and then x and 5 go on the same thing. I need to figure out my symbols, though. If you go back to the beginning, and you guys have to know this, if it's a plus here, but a minus here, this is a case of minus minus. Now, let's talk about this real quick. If you have something like x squared minus, 6x plus 9, that is going to be a minus minus. Now, if you had x squared plus 6x plus 9, that is going to be a case of plus plus. Now, what if you had the case, I'm going to circle our answer here, so let's get a little crazy. What if you had a case of x squared, let's just say like minus 2x, and if it was, let's pick like 12. So like minus 12, okay? This is a minus. Do you see that? That is always the case of the plus minus. I don't care what this number is, what the sign is in front of this number here. It could be a plus, it could be a minus. If that last is a minus, you know it's a plus minus. So a lot of people see that negative sign in the middle right here and think, oh, plus minus. Nope. No. Be careful. So this is the answer. We're going to have a bunch more factoring ones. So we need to get moving on this end. And I think it'll make it more obvious as we keep going these rules. Please have them memorized. That's what you have to have.